its skyline literally sparkles with opportunity. Along with the billions of dollars in new high-profile development here, Mayor Andre Dickens wants to make sure that no one is left behind, no matter where they live, especially the city's most vulnerable residents. That's why the mayor created the Affordable Housing Strike Force to prioritize development projects and coordinate planning to target communities and people in need of safe and secure housing, like the Juanita H. Gardner Village in Adamsville, which will offer 108 units to legacy residents when it's complete.
Often when we talk about affordable housing, the focus sometimes is on young people and on families, but it's equally important for us to look out for our seniors as well. As Atlanta has grown to be such a desired place to live, we have unfortunately found it hard to keep legacy residents. As the cost of living has increased, we are making sure that we look out and prefer to make sure that we keep people living in this city, and that means our seniors as well.
The mayor's list of affordable housing projects is long, and it encompasses communities from all over the city. These sites are just a sample of the work being done right now, thanks to the more than $100 million in investments announced by Mayor Dickens this year. The funding for the projects comes from a variety of sources that include the American Rescue Plan and the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which will literally transform properties that have been vacant or underutilized for years.
I set a goal of building or preserving 20,000 units of affordable housing over the next 8 years. So that means by 2030, you will have 20,000 more units of housing that's affordable to people that live, work, and play in the city of Atlanta.
Affordable housing is one of the pillars of the mayor's administration because it increases economic mobility and decreases intergenerational poverty.
It is no secret that we are seeing rents increase in our city, both in the south and the west part of our city. Statistics are showing that the maximum rent in a low-income household can pay without being cost burdened is about $750 a month. But only 10% of newly built apartments are renting for less than $1,000 a month. In fact, I saw some recent numbers, $2,300 for a one-bedroom.
Denise Charles knows all about Atlanta's high rents. That's what drove her to the west side and Columbia Canopy at Grove Park, where she took advantage of one of the city's newest affordable apartment units.
I moved in April when it first opened, and I love the location and the fact that it's always quiet. I appreciate the affordability factor because, you know, I still have to work, pay bills, drive a car, pay gas and insurance and everything. If you walk in, you wouldn't know the difference if you walk into a brand new condo or an older condo.
Thanks to the city's strong relationship with stakeholders like Partners for Home, thousands of formerly unhoused residents like Richard DeShields now have their own place to live.
And I honestly believe that Mayor Dickens is putting a lot of people on the path of what I got.
In addition to helping unsheltered residents, the city has also secured millions of dollars for housing to residents with AIDS through Jerusalem House and Atlanta's HOPWA program. Healthy neighborhoods create an environment for success, which is why the Atlanta Police Department is stepping up its enforcement of nuisance property laws.
There's a hazard on that side with the vegetation, and there's a hazard on this side with the porch in danger of collapsing. So I utilize the vacant property next to it to access the rear of this property, and that's why I observed the open window in the rear with 2 open windows in the rear. Since there's an opening, the property is vacant but it's accessible, I have to put the hazard placard on it.
Even one empty house without the proper maintenance and upkeep can breed crime and violence.
This is a code enforcement extension, and code enforcement has observed violations of these properties.
There was a time when this property was considered a violent and dangerous nuisance to the community. But today, Columbia at Capitol View is a success story, reimagined and transformed into an affordable housing asset on the Beltline. Further proof that change is not only possible, but in Atlanta, it's inevitable. I'm Keith.
everybody. Good morning. I had not seen that video before. That was my first time literally watching that video. I don't even know when they made it. And I said, a video? When do y'all shoot it? How do y'all do it? And I guess we've been rolling. The last 10 months, 10 and a half months, almost 11 months now. We've been on roller skates. I don't even have time to check the videos, check the things that y'all are doing. That was pretty awesome. Thank you, Natalie, for that introduction. Thank you for those heartfelt words, and I remember those days of me running for city council, and thank you for that. And thank you so many of you for all that you're doing. This brings me joy to be back here at House ATL. I remember when we had our very first meetings here. Do you remember that, Sarah, Frank, Mark? A lot of you. We were right here talking about affordable housing and how we were going to make some recommendations. And y'all met, and we met a lot of times. And that was a little bit over 5 years ago, or just about 5 years ago. And look where we are now. This list of achievements, the list of this progress report, on top of the recommendations that were made, we made a commitment to not just have some binders that we put on the shelf, that we have these dead recommendations. They just were good ideas, that they were smart people getting together, but yet they were actionable. And these committees showing this progress report is what we must have whenever we convene bodies of interested and smart and capable and connected people to get things done. So I'm grateful and thankful for all the hard work that y'all have done, and that we are a partnership, a team together. I've said this, and now I've said it enough times that now it's no longer mine. I want to remind y'all it's mine. Atlanta is a group project. Atlanta is a group project. I heard a council member say he didn't give me credit. That's all right, I'll just steal one of his good lines too. But Atlanta is a group project. You can't build or preserve 20,000 units of affordable housing. You can't take people from poverty to prosperity. You can't, make sure that you have development without displacement. You can't do those things without the collective, without us working together. And so that's why we do draw circles and not draw lines. This is going to take all of us. And so I'm happy that my chief of staff is here, Odie Donald. I'm thankful. Brian Thomas, the director of communications. My senior advisor, Courtney English, is here. Josh Humphreys, our director of our housing office, and who really leads a lot of the things and co-leads it with Courtney English. The city attorney, Nina Hickson, is here. Our Atlanta Housing chairman, Larry Stewart, and Sarah Kirsch is here. She's a housing commissioner. These are newly minted housing commissioners doing some amazing things already in the very first few months. And so many other vital contributors to our city. Of course, we have Catherine Vassell. I keep saying Marchman, I have to say Vassell, over our Partners for Home. But I'm excited today, and I'm just grateful that we're back in person and back to be able to work together on these things that we've been doing. I sat with you as a member of this body 5 years ago, and I'm grateful now to serve as your mayor. And 10 and a half months, 11 months goes by super fast. It goes by super fast, y'all. It's almost Thanksgiving. Can you believe that? This is fast. And so 6 months ago, in my State of the City address, I shared my vision for the city of Atlanta. One city with one bright future, a city of safe, healthy, and connected neighborhoods with an expansive culture of equity, empowering upward mobility, and full participation for all residents, embracing youth development, and an innovative, dependable government moving Atlanta forward together. That's our vision. We will continue to move that vision forward. And we know that Atlanta is a city on the move, and we are one of the fastest growing economies and have the best quality of life in the country. Atlanta is fast becoming the smartest place to start or to grow a business, the best place to raise a family, and one of the most vibrant home to arts, culture, and entertainment. As the cradle of the civil rights movement Atlanta is working to become the beloved community that Dr. King envisioned for us all. Now, of course, I am a bit biased, but it's not just me saying it. Just last month, Money Magazine called us the best city in the United States to live. It's a lot of cities. It's a lot of cities. I'm a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and there's a whole lot of mayors. And those are just mayors of cities that you actually, can count, that they got more than 5 stoplights, right? There's a whole lot of cities. And your city, the city that wasn't the best city to live last year, the year before, 10 years ago, Money Magazine didn't say that. Your collective, the things that you did, the businesses, the nonprofits, the efforts, our who-ness has made people look at us and say we are the best place to live. Now, as Atlantans and as housing advocates, we find fault in everything. I've never seen a good tweet come out of a housing advocate's mouth. I've never seen a good tweet. I mean, I clap for y'all, I don't clap for me. I got it. That's how this goes. I get it. I'm looking at one of my friends. But there's something worth celebrating about our city. Now, that just means a bunch of people gonna come here when we celebrate, and everybody say we full. But it's worth celebrating. But yet it's not enough until Atlanta is not just a city of prosperity, but a city where all of us can share in that prosperity. It's not enough when Atlanta still ranks near the top in income inequality. It's not enough when some of the poorest neighborhoods in Georgia are actually right here in Atlanta, just miles from some of the richest communities in Georgia. And so we have some work to do, and that work in so many ways starts with housing. Because housing is fundamentally tied to everything else we care about. It's intrinsic to a family's success. It's directly tied to education, directly tied to health, directly tied to your wealth and safety. Housing is how we ensure that we can continue welcoming people to our city while ensuring that those who help to make our city what it is, that they are able to stay. These legacy residents are the soul of our community. We spend a lot of time thinking about housing, talking about housing, moving housing forward in my administration. I have a background in housing, and I made sure that my senior team does too. My senior advisor, Courtney English, worked for Martin at Star C, a nonprofit affordable housing developer, before joining the city. And my COO, Lisa Gordon, who's in DC today, previously served as president and CEO of the Atlanta Habitat for Humanity. Just like the folks in this room, housing is in my administration's DNA. 2 out of the 3 people that I talk to every single day are housing advocates and housing experts. And so, just know that the challenge before us is great, and we have some great headwinds to overcome. Prices for homes, both rental and to buy, have skyrocketed in the last few years. Now, sky-high interest rates are putting the dream of home ownership a little bit further out of reach for too many. Speculative investors are buying up properties in our city, driving up the cost even higher. Building supplies are still on back order, and it's as hard as it's ever been to find a lot of construction workers. But those are just the problems, and there's something I know about Atlantans. We know how to overcome problems when we put our minds to it and we put our will to it. Look at what we just did at Forest Cove. For years, hundreds of families have been left behind in conditions that we should all be ashamed of. In the first few weeks I took office, I went to Forest Cove to see for myself as mayor. What I saw, it shocked me to the core. On a February day where temperatures were in the mid to upper 30s, freezing families with small children were in homes with busted out windows or no windows at all. Families came to me to show photos on their phone of rats that had infested their homes. I told them that we were there to help, and I could tell that they had been told they were going to get help before, and that they did not believe it. I can't blame them. For years, Their pleas for help had gone unanswered. They had learned not to complain too loudly because these families had few resources and even fewer housing choices. The problem of Forest Cove had been passed along for years. It's the owner's problem. It's HUD's problem. It's the market's failure to produce homes. For the first time in my tenure as mayor, I came against a point and had to realize this fact that it's not my fault, but it is my problem. I didn't do it, but we have the same problem and I gotta help solve it. I was not willing to let people continue to languish in those conditions, so we had to act. And many fellow Atlantans came to rally for that cause, including our community foundation and many, many others. In late March, we reached an agreement with the owner of Forest Cove Apartments to expedite the relocation of these residents. This was a big commitment. At that time, there were more than 200 families there and more than 800 people living at Forest Cove. To move 800 people is a large amount with a family dynamic. That's an undertaking. In mid-May, I signed legislation authorizing the first funds to support the relocation. Then the really hard work began. That's when the Atlantans that we know and love, they all came forward to answer that call. Working with the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta, we mustered the support and engagement of more than a dozen nonprofits and government agencies to provide wraparound services. We put out the call to find 200 homes, and private organizations like Pretium and the Atlanta Apartment Association stepped up to the plate. On June 3rd, the first families moved from Forest Cove, and on September 30th, the last family moved off the property. Now, our work at Forest Cove can also just begin. We're not done. In many ways, we're just getting started. And we have a big vision for the revitalization of the greater Thomasville Heights neighborhood, and that is now possible. So what have we learned from this effort? First, we have learned that our work must start and end with people. The truth is that the residents of Forest Cove had been calling for action long before we had even engaged. Second, our intervention at Forest Cove was a necessary and emergency action. It wasn't a housing policy. We can't wait until homes are overrun with rats and crime before we take action. We must work proactively to address housing in our city and not wait for problems to arise and mount up. But third, and most importantly, we have learned that progress is possible. We know that if we marshal our resources and align our will, we can make change. Housing is a problem that we can solve. Housing is an opportunity we can seize. And so it is with optimism that I am coming to you today to share my administration's broader housing strategy. It is a strategy that's consistent with House ATL. As a member of this body with you for 5 years, this is in my DNA. It is a strategy centered in equity and opportunity for Atlanta residents. It's focused on development without displacement, as we stated, and providing practical, diverse housing options for our diverse community. We start with our goals. At the same State of the City address in last April, I set out a goal to build or preserve 20,000 units of affordable housing in this city by 2030. I'm also committed to making homelessness brief, rare, and non-reoccurring. Achieving those goals will take a lot of different tools. Our housing strategy is built on 5 key pillars, which I'll summarize today. First, we have activated our affordable housing strike force. Yeah, settle in y'all seats. This is the full version. I'm not giving you the microwave version. First, we have activated our affordable housing strike force. The strike force, led by Senior Advisor Courtney English and COO Lisa Gordon, is made up of public and nonprofit agencies, including MARTA, Atlanta Public Schools, the Atlanta Beltline, Atlanta Housing, Invest Atlanta, the Metro Atlanta Land Bank, and the Atlanta Land Trust. Together, we are prioritizing development projects, working to jointly identify the obstacles to development, and coordinating planning, funding, and infrastructure investments across all of those agencies. We're focused on identifying viable public land for development, securing funding, and expediting the regulatory process for affordable housing development. We had to just come in and help Margie Stagmar get something unstuck just last week. We have not fixed it, we are fixing it. And that's the goal, to doing while planning. We are focused on identifying viable public land for development. And the strike force is identifying projects by 4 categories of development potential. 1 is ready to build. Smaller project sites that are ready to be built in the short term with relatively low infrastructure and investment costs. That's the first set. The second set is revenue generating. Larger project sites with substantial market potential that may require more effort to develop, but will pay off with greater revenue generating potential to support affordable housing initiatives. The third is large scale catalytic. Broader scale project sites like the 100 plus acres of publicly owned land in Thomasville Heights or Bowen Homes or the Civic Center site with transformational potential that will require multiple agency coordination, master planning, and infrastructure investment. And the fourth is complex development. Sites that are difficult to develop due to limiting factors like environmental remediation required, but that could be developed in the long term with proper planning and investment. Consider floodplains or brownfields. The strike force has already been critical in securing some early affordable housing wins. We are moving forward on important affordable housing projects like 143 Alabama Street, 184 Forsyth Street to bring much needed housing to downtown Atlanta. We're also working closely with our housing authority to ensure that their underutilized sites are leveraged to build the affordable housing we need. Last month, the Atlanta Housing Board approved a development partner to bring over 500 new affordable housing units and 1,300 total units to the Atlanta Civic Center site while also preserving the historic auditorium. We're also making headway on the redevelopment of the Bowen Homes site, which you'll hear about real soon. These are just a few examples of how the strike force is working to put our greatest underutilized resources, which is our public land, to work to address our affordable housing needs. Second, we're putting unprecedented resources behind funding and developing affordable housing. In my first year in office, we have activated more than $100 million in housing funding. That includes $7 million in my first general fund budget with the support of the Atlanta City Council. We also secured $22.5 million in extra emergency rental assistance dollars to prevent evictions consistent with the House ATL plans. We put $9.1 million in American Rescue Plan funds toward the Forest Cove relocation and another $6.2 million in homelessness assistance. We are activating $20.9 million of the city's affordable housing trust fund. And just last week, we made a historic announcement that we are activating $39 million in Eastside TAD dollars to purchase 2 Peachtree Street from the state to convert the building into a mixed-income, mixed-use site to bring more affordable housing and economic activity to downtown Atlanta at a MARTA station. That's just one example of the way that Invest Atlanta is serving as a vital partner in our work to develop affordable housing in Atlanta. We had a huge day at Invest Atlanta last month where during one single meeting, we approved the largest set of bond inducements leading to the largest number of units in history, nearly $331 million supporting 1,883 units in one meeting. Dawn Arnold, she's been at Invest Atlanta for quite a while and leads that organization, particularly our housing And in that one meeting, we both kind of teared up like, wow, look at how much. I just knew it took a lot of paperwork for them to get to that point to get that stuff done. My administration also remains committed to identifying a permanent stream of dollars dedicated to the development of affordable housing. We're looking forward to working with advocates and practitioners to develop those options and look forward to engaging with the City Council to actually realize dedicated dollars for this work. We also know that developing affordable housing is not just about money. We have other tools at our disposal. We're updating our inclusionary zoning policies to ensure that new developments further support affordability and protect legacy residents. So I started that policy back in 2016. It came to life in 2018. We've seen the benefits of it around the Beltline, and now we're going to update that policy even more. Since we established inclusionary zoning in 2018, the policy has produced 800 leasing units with another 1,061 more affordable units under construction right now. They are required. They have to produce them. That's the benefit of inclusionary zoning, that for a generation you will have these housing units there. And we are engaging in partnerships. Earlier this year, we announced a faith-based affordable housing development partnership through which we expect to develop 2,000 units on church-owned land as part of our 20,000 unit goal. And so we wanted to make sure that churches and synagogues and mosques who always talk about they want to help in these regards, and they have underutilized land. So we're charging them with coming up with a tenth, a tithe of the 20,000 units. And they're actually moving forward. Since the launch of this initiative, we have engaged over 200 faith leaders and have more than a dozen faith institutions with housing developments underway. Enterprise has been instrumental in helping us with that. This Sunday, we will break ground on a major project in the heart of our city with Atlanta First United Methodist Church. They are going to build affordable housing on their land. I am proud to report that we are already making significant progress. As of today, this year alone, we have delivered 1,739 affordable housing units and have another 3,940 under construction. That's progress worth celebrating in the first 11 months. We are in the market to hire a chief portfolio and housing officer. This person will help us lead our strike force and help us reach our goal. The position is posted now. So if there's anyone that you know who is ready to join our work, please let us know. I'm not trying to steal nobody's employees. I'm talking about just in general. If somebody wants to be the chief portfolio and housing officer for the city of Atlanta that's well on our way to build 20,000 units of affordable housing, please have them go online and apply. Don't call me. Third, we are raising the standard for multi-family housing to address nuisance and blighted properties. Unfortunately, we know that Forest Cove is not the only place where people are living in our city that are in substandard conditions. As the Atlanta Journal-Constitution recently highlighted in their Dangerous Dwellings series, there are too many apartment complexes that have too many issues that have not gone addressed. No family deserves to live in substandard housing conditions, and yet many occupied multifamily properties in our city are not up to code, leaving families to struggle in unacceptable conditions. We have launched a proactive, data-driven program to identify, inspect, and ultimately rehabilitate problematic multifamily properties across Atlanta. The goal of the program is healthy, stable, affordable housing developments, and the city will use every tool at its disposal to work with owners to comply with our housing standards or transition ownership to a responsible entity who shares the city's vision for residents' quality of life. We are building a coordinated program that bridges city departments and agencies alongside county, state, and federal partners. This group includes APD's code enforcement, which you saw on the video that I didn't know about, Atlanta Housing, the Solicitor's Office, Atlanta Fire Department, Watershed Department, Public Works, Invest Atlanta, the Fulton County DA, the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development are all working together going after problematic nuisance properties. Owners of these properties should be on notice. Anyone paying any attention can see that we're serious about getting families out of substandard housing conditions. The city of Atlanta is not going to stand idly by and have people live that way. 4, we have recommitted ourselves to housing opportunities for persons with AIDS. For too long, the HOPWA program has been seen as almost a back burner piece of our region's housing agenda. When I came into office, the HOPWA program was seriously lagging. I am proud to report that at my direction, the HOPWA program is now up to date. Our Commissioner of Grants Management, Deborah London, and her team have done a phenomenal job. We have cleared the payment backlog, fully clearing out the 2019, 2020, and 2021 backlog of payments by June 30th of this year. 3 years of back payments. It was absurd that these agencies were waiting for years. And I'm looking at my friend from Jerusalem House. We have also reduced the reimbursement process, which was 144 days, to now having hit right at 30 days, 2 months in a row. Paying people on time is important. Now we are focused on moving HOPWA forward. Last week I met with the supporters of Jerusalem House, Atlanta's oldest and largest HOPWA provider, to share our plans to further support HOPWA providers, including streamlining the processes, switching to a monitor-based approach for reimbursement, and establishing a task force to address future modernization of the program from the federal government. We're making sure that HOPWA providers are at the table as we address the region's housing needs. 5th and finally, y'all can say finally, we have put in place LIFT 2.0 to address homelessness. Far too often, we think about homelessness and housing as separate issues. And while there can be reason that may be the case, I believe that we will only be truly successful in addressing our housing needs if we think about it in the full spectrum of needs, from homelessness to affordable rental to affordable home ownership. Earlier this year, I directed my team to develop LIFT 2.0, our strategy to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-reoccurring, consistent with the Housing First themes. LIFT 2.0 prioritizes people experiencing unsheltered and chronic homelessness by utilizing a phased approach that addresses encampments, moves people into housing, and ensures they have access to wraparound services that they need to stay in stable housing. Through Partners for Home and engaging a dozen of partners throughout the city, we're reaching out to people experiencing homelessness to get them what they need, including mental health services, addiction services, family housing, family counseling, and even job training services. We set an ambitious goal to help 1,500 households achieve stable housing, and we're putting the resources behind them to hit that goal. We put $6.2 million in American Rescue Plan funds towards tenant-based rental assistance, supporting services, and new hotel services. We've also accepted $12.7 million from state partners towards our work. So, what I've outlined today is an ambitious plan, a plan to address our housing across the spectrum and in every corner of our great city. What I have not done is share a plan that the city can execute all by itself. It's a safe bet that nearly everyone in this room has heard me talk about that drawing of circles and not drawing lines. Drawing circles is a way that we make sure we are hearing everyone, representing everyone, and closing the door on no one. But it's also about making sure that everyone understands that they have a role to play in achieving our shared vision for our community. Every aspect of this strategy requires that we work in partnership. That means partnering with everyone in this room, and it means going out and finding new partners who maybe have never come to the table on housing before. House ATL deserves a lot of credit for where we are and where we are going. I sat with you as we developed recommendations, many of which we are now implementing, with projects like 2 Peachtree, Atlanta First United Methodist Church, the Atlanta Civic Center, the redevelopment of Bowen Homes on their horizon. We built a housing delivery machine and are poised to meet this city's housing challenges head on. We also know that building alone won't solve all our housing challenges. We need to use not only our hands, but our voices. We need groups like House ATL and all those who are supporting its work to unite in local, state, and federal advocacy, and our engagement with funders to advance our shared goals around affordable home ownership, down payment assistance, and community land trusts. We need to fight for tenants' rights, giving protections for tenants against bad acting landlords. We were proud to work with the City Council to stand up to the South's first Access to Counsel program with the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation. The initiative will provide pro bono legal services to those facing eviction. Our county government has an important role to play, and they got an important role to play in everything. County government has an important role to play in everything. But as it relates to housing, they have a role to play in making sure that we serve our citizens, including accurately reporting and capturing revenue from commercial property taxes that have gone undervalued. Accurate assessments means more money for public safety, for roads, large investments in our children, and I will be working with my team and the county to capture and deploy this revenue. And while I know that we're here today to discuss housing, it is important to note that affordable housing alone is only one building block of a whole, healthy community. Good schools, opportunities for our young people, a chance for families to move their way up the economic ladder, transportation options, and access to food and health care are foundational to thriving neighborhoods. To this end, we are working on a neighborhood revitalization effort to improve the quality of life in underserved communities and closing the long-standing equity gaps. We have already made historic investments in housing, early childhood education, and workforce development. In the coming months, I will be calling on the business and philanthropic community to match and ultimately help us accelerate these activities. So I'm here today to thank you for your partnership and challenge us all to think bigger, to dream bigger, and to help make Atlanta a city where all can thrive. Thank you.
All right, can y'all give one more round of applause to our mayor?